Welcome back to Pro League, everybody. It's all tied up here between CJ Entis and the SBENU Pro Gaming team. Leonok able to take a pretty sick CVC win there over Bial. Big upsets, man. This is what we're talking about. This is what happens all the time here in Pro League.
That it does, and it's awesome to see, especially in the way we saw it. Now, going into this map, Cactus Valley, it's going to be a really fun PvZ, but really depends on how the Zerg wants to play it, because you have seen in the past that in this map, Horos does dominate most of the time just simply because we see late game happen because the map is so huge, and Horos is looking pretty favored in late game right now. This is the reason why we see Hush on this map, because he was expecting a Horos player. We see Hush come out for PvPs, one of the best PvP players in this league, probably still the best statistically.
Also, if you'll notice, he's not nearly as good in his other matchups. We haven't seen enough of it, I feel, still, but definitely his PvP by far the biggest. He's 4-0 in PvP, 0-1, 0-1 in the other two matchups. So, like you said, I think definitely a snipe pick, trying to find a Protoss here again on this big map. Let's talk about Curious as well, doing insanely well recently in his GSL group, able to get out of that crazy death group with, I think, a Bial, Hero, and Dream.
Yeah.
Right? And it turns out both Hero and Dream didn't make it through, which is kind of crazy as well.
Yeah, those are like some of the top 4 players in the world easily. I mean, that was like the biggest, craziest group. Let's take a look at our predictions, because I was actually the only one who voted for Hush earlier, and then I changed my vote, which I do very rarely.
Good change. Good change, I think.
And the reason why I initially voted for Hush was the map, because this is a map where Protoss seems to be looking really good, and late game Protoss versus Zerg is something that a lot of Zerg struggle with. But Curious in Wings of Liberty, where there were also no Swarm hosts, looks really strong in late game CVP. He's patient, he knows what he's doing, and so I think he has a shot at this one. More than Hush does, because Hush just is not known for his PvZ.
Yeah, PvZ or his PvP. He's really just the PvP sniper. Many different CJ players as well, I also want to mention, they go into interviews and they say, this guy is actually like a mastermind. He taught me all the builds for this matchup. And it could be like a PvT or something, you know? Maybe Hush isn't able to execute the builds quite as well as, let's say, someone like Hero or any of the other Protosses like Sora on the team, but he still knows so much about the game. He is an incredibly smart player. We see it all the time in PvP, and PvP really does require those smarts as well, that kind of mirror matchup. Part of the reason why I love that matchup too.
It's super fun. It's just because there's so much mind games, so much thinking that goes into this. Curious 4 and 6, and 1 and 2, or rather, 1 and 2 versus Protoss having a tougher time, and 2-1 versus Hush in total, but let's not read into this too much, because most of those probably are unofficial. I can't think of the last time these two met each other, maybe in like a Star League qualifier or something like that.
I think what I see out of Curious here is kind of what I saw out of Myungsik when he just exploded into this amazing player. I think something's going on in that SBENU house where everybody is really hyped up and really excited to practice and get really good together. And so Curious has, you know, come back and played insane games in that GSL group, as well as Myungsik had, and he got out first in the group as well. So I think over here on SBENU is going to do a great job. Let's go into the game. It's going to be game 3 between Hush and Curious. Up here in the top left in the yellow, our Protoss player from CJ, it is Hush.
PvP Master faces to the bottom left in pink. Curious. Once the anchor of StarTale. In the GSTL, the last man they would send out a lot of the time. Really, really top Zerg, especially good at the ZVP matchup in Wings of Liberty. So coming into this one, seems to be coming back into form. I would actually cry if Curious won a GSL or a Star League, man. He's made it really far this GSL. He was once, you know, really known as just being the guy who makes it to Codes every time and then falls out, or makes it to the round of 16 in Codes and falls out. That's why they call him the gatekeeper, right? Because he knocks people into Code A. But to see him actually do this well, to go this far, and to be back in form on a new team that has new funding, and let's be honest, like, nothing raises team morale more than a new sponsor, a new awesome-looking jersey, and new players that you can work with that you know from the past. You know, even adding a player like Jockji into the team, I feel like just adds this extra level. Versus maybe they're like, oh, you have experience. You are a champion. Let's see what you think about all of this. Even
it's a great guy to get in your house. You know, maybe he's not going to come out here and be the Pro League All-Star and win a GSL or something like that, but he's going to be in that house and tell all the younger kids what to do and how to act as a pro gamer and how to get better. Yeah. So it's a great point you make there. Because
this is the guy who's, in this case, Curious, the guy who can tell people, like, this is who we should send out as the ace player. I've been there before. I know what's up. I know how this is going to work. So I'm really happy for basically every player on SBENU right now. Like, they've come together in a great place. Now, we do see a Forge first here, so we're going to see a cannon attempt most likely, as only one drone is down. Could send a second probe as well here if he really wants to commit.
He did the double scout because he wanted to get this down so fast, so definitely Hush committing to this pretty heavily. And at the same time, Curious, I feel dealing with it pretty nicely. He's already got one drone at the front, you know, just spotting, making sure that no more probes come in there. Hush is going to commit to one pylon here. I don't think he's going to be able to throw down a cannon, though.
No, but he's going to look at the difference in lost mining time here. 4 off the line versus 1. Probe comes back. The perfect timing to drop the Nexus. Instead of staying the second probe and trying to force the cannon and possibly costing him the game, he's just simply going to threaten here. The 5th drone even actually patrolled at the edge just to make sure he didn't get, like, cannon contained with a tight wall. We've seen that before in the past. So finally the pylon falls.
Usually it's a good trade to just let the pylon finish, force the Zerg to clean it up. It's kind of annoying, but the Zerg basically has to do it, because if they just left it there, Hush could just easily come in, make like a 3-cannon wall, another pylon or something, and all of a sudden you're screwed and you have no natural. So
yep, greedy builds do require that sort of reaction. And then Hush forces that with a double probe scout. It ends up being a fairly even trade, but I feel like the Protoss definitely gets the better end of it here.
Yeah. At the same time, you know, he does get the Forge out first, so it's not going to be like some kind of Nexus first into Gateway build. The tech of the Protoss is going to be quite severely delayed. You see the Gateway only finishing up now. And in fact, Curious, once he holds that off, he's just going to put down a 3rd base.
Yep. And what's important about so let's talk about this like specific thing as this game kind of ramps up slowly. When you look at a Zerg player gets away with the hatch first, even though he lost all that mining time, what does he gain? He gains extra larva, which means he can drone up very quickly in order to make this this happen. And larva spawns very, very quickly. On the other hand, that Nexus, you can't just go, oh, well, I have 2 Nexi now, I can make a ton of probes exponentially like you can with the hatchery. The chrono energy takes some time to build. You're not just suddenly going to have twice as many chrono energies. You have to wait for that first 25 energy. That takes a really long time. So if you think about it, in a way, the Protoss definitely loses a lot of mining time with this because they lose also the chrono energy as well in that Nexus, where as a Zerg is going to get that larva up very quickly and it's going to be able to spam out those drones to make up for the lost mining time. So I think it's a slightly better trade for the Protoss even still, but there are a lot of drawbacks, as you were saying. Yep. The tech being one of the most important as well.
Getting down to the nitty-gritty of it all, Wolf.
Yeah.
And I like what Hush did there as well. I just want to note this. He delayed the scout with this probe only to see if there was a 3rd base coming down, and he hides it from Curious. He doesn't want Curious to know that he did scout the 3rd base, and I'm very curious to see what the, no pun intended, by the way, I want to see what Hush is going to follow up here with. It seems like a Stargate for now, but there is still one probe over to the right side. I suppose he could put down a pylon and maybe go for a big attack.
Yeah, I mean, it's always going to be a good idea to have this probe here. You can use it to scout 4th base timings. You can use it to try to run in and make a 4th pylon to do aggressive moves, you know, even later on in the game to attack the 4th base with Zealots if we go super late game, which on this map we usually do see. Phoenix is going to be the tech of choice on this Stargate. Already you do see Spore Crawlers coming up here to be safe. And Curious is the type of guy who will make Spore Crawlers even sometimes without scouting, just because he's one of the safest ZVP players in the world and doesn't take unnecessary risks. So now he's getting his first glimpse here, looks like, of the Stargate, or rather of what the tech is going to be on that Stargate. Did see it earlier, but didn't know if it's going to be Phoenixes or Oracles.
Overlord coming for another scout. Sees that, as you did mention. He's going to add the double Evo chamber. Who was it that just recently, I think it was Life yesterday actually, went for very heavy Zerglings, went for +1 melee and +1 armor, and then twin stream 2 Infestors and a fast hive. Would be interesting to see Curious play that kind of style as well. You were saying before, you know, very, very good at that late game ZVP without the Swarm Host. I would love to see it again. You know, it's a very big map, and we actually do see melee upgrades coming through.
Yeah, this is something that's becoming more popular. It is something that we saw in Wings of Liberty as well, especially the investor play. But when you go with this heavy Ling style, and your opponent goes Phoenixes, you can't lift the Lings. It's not like the Oracle opening where Lings are just pretty useless against that third base, for example. So I like this style a lot. You're obviously not going to be able to go completely roachless with this sort of style, or you'll just get countered, but it's a cool way to play it. And if you get into a fast fight, you get those ultras out. That's how you want to decide to play the late game. You'll have those upgrades as well. So many Overlords going down, 3 already. Starting to add up a little bit here.
By the way, our observer just showed us that probe is still over to the right side. Looks like he's just saving it. You know, whenever he does want to go for an attack, he can always put down a pylon. It doesn't look like he's going to go for any kind of gigantic attack anytime soon. But, you know, it's good to always just have that probe out on the map. Especially when you go for a very heavy Zergling style, it's very easy to snipe out that probe and deny the pylon. So keeping it hidden for a long time is pretty cool.
So, you know, just at this stage in the game, a lot of Lings made, and they haven't done damage per se, but, well
as you say that.
Yeah, and actually maybe a sentry here if he does not force field.
Yeah, interesting he doesn't force field. He's actually just trading for now, saving that energy.
Also interesting that Curious decided to commit that long. I thought the general idea of these Lings
right
was just
before
simply,
+1 finishes too.
Yeah, I thought the idea of the Lings is just to say you can't make a third, like ever. I'm not going to let you do that. And then he committed to an attack there and now is just remaxing the Lings. So he's staying, you know, just 62 Harvesters, not ready to commit to a 4th base just yet, but instead actually getting that 4th hatchery, the macro hatch, to get that extra larva to continue with this Ling heavy style. Oh, this poor Overseer actually going to finish but then die.
Goodbye, Overseer. There you go. There's that macro hatch. And we do see Hush now going into Void Rays. He's getting a decent read on what Curious is doing and is saying, okay, I just got to build up my Void Ray count for now. Maybe add some more Stargates a little bit later on. We're seeing more heavy Stargate play out of Protoss these days as we go later and later on in these games, so not a bad idea. Uh-oh, Hush losing to Phoenix.
A bit sloppy because he's really concerned about his third base. Again, this is why we see these moves from Curious, because he knows with a big heavy Ling style like this, he'll be able to constantly attack that and usually force a cancel on it. Even with the Colossus and Zealots there, he was just able to overwhelm that location and take it out. A Protoss that's stuck on 2 bases for this long is going to have a serious tech problem. They need the extra gas from that third base more than they need the minerals. And so you're not going to see any more Void Rays for a while because he doesn't have that gas. He's actually going to lose a Phoenix maybe? Not quite.
Ooh.
Big Ling attack again here. I think this time he should be totally fine though.
There's going to be a cannon.
And a wall.
There still is one Colossus. Just one. Like you were saying, really not using that gas. I mean, he has some, but he's kind of banking it for now.
But yeah, it looks like he has a lot of gas now because he can't spend it because he just made a ton of minerals on the new Nexus, which he didn't cancel, by the way, the first one. A ton of gates for the wall and some of these upgrades. So like his minerals all just went down from all that mineral expenditure, and so he can't spend his gas. So he has a ton of gas in the bank, yes, but he doesn't have a lot that he's mining. And this is a weak Zealot. I don't think this wall is going to be tight.
Oh, he slips through, and look at how many Lings are there. They have +1 at the same time, and there's no defense here.
He has to recall, but his natural is now exposed. And if he actually decided to leave right now, I think he could hit the third base and kill it. So much damage being done here. And Hush is just being torn apart by Curious right now. Curious takes a 4th base that's super far away and so far unscouted. The creep hasn't connected to it either, but still he's just getting a hive here. The 2-2 upgrades are lining up. And the Ultralisk Cavern and the Greater Spire. So he's going down both tech paths.
Man, Curious is smashing this guy right now. He's making it look easy for ZVP at this point in time. Really kind of interesting. At the same time, if you look at what Hush is doing, he's kind of playing an interesting style, going for pretty early Storm as well as a bunch of, you know, the Stargate units. He doesn't go for Blink, doesn't go for a very heavy sentry count. Not really playing the standard Protoss versus Zerg style these days. So Curious kind of taking advantage of that, and like I said before, making it look pretty easy.
Yeah. We do see Immortals actually being added to the mix now. Ooh! Could have actually tried to lift some of those, but no follow-up there because he's a bit concerned. The Ling's even coming back as well. But the Immortals here clearly show that he's ready to transition to deal with, or he's already working on transitioning towards the eventual Ultralisk. And the Void Rays, how many does he have now? Just 3. Void Ray is obviously going to be what he wants against Corrupt or Broodlord. This Ling attack here, again, going to eliminate some of these units. He's just going to run away. He's just making sure, okay, you don't have a 4th base. Let me see if I can find anything. If he lost every Ling there, it would have still been not the end of the world. Not ideal, but all these poor High Templar.
All stuck behind that small Zealot.
Zealot's like, no one passes. Those are the new rules.
And we're finally seeing Hush make that transition. But as you mentioned before, he got that 3rd base so late right now. So Curious kind of has every tool he would ever want and need versus Protoss right now, whereas Hush is scrambling to get all the tech that he needs. And we see another gigantic run by here.
Okay.
Nice building placement from Hush, though.
This time he might lose every Ling. Okay, not quite. He does react pretty quickly there. But he committed so much to that building placement again. He still has no 4th base. This probe has just been chilling. Tell hasn't scouted the 4th of Curious. Excuse me. I think I've said Leenock a few times in this game because it was.
If you
so
did, I didn't even notice, man.
I was just so hype about that last ZVZ. Yeah. But oh man, this wall is not tight, and this Immortal's going to go down. This is one of those embarrassing mistakes you make in this matchup. And this is actually the example I always give. I know I've said this on air a million times, but people ask me, why is StarCraft frustrating? Why do people not like to play it? They like to watch it instead. It's because of things like this. It's like if there's a wall there, those Lings just run into a wall and all die.
Oh, he's actually look at the Funkles coming down. I don't know if this is enough Protoss to deal with it. He's got very nice storms underneath those Broodlords, but
it's just there's
not enough.
There's
the
enough
Funkles get everything.
Yeah. And even enough Queens here to fight this GG.
Oh, man.
Almost one-side game I've commentated in a while, man. Curious just bopped him. That was not even fair.
Wow. Curious made that look extremely easy. And Hush, a very embarrassing game for him. He saw him put his head into his hands after that one. That's not a game you want to take. And Curious is on fire these days. So happy to see this guy coming back. And kind of the story of SBENU. You know, all these veterans coming back and winning games for their team and doing extremely well in Pro League and in individual tournaments.
Yeah, Curious, you know, he looked totally confident going this match as well. You talked about the head in the hands of Hush. We actually saw that as well, like while the countdown was starting in the game was starting, he was just like,
looked really tired.
He looked tired, stressed, just